Alrighty, we're in for
Okay.
a show and tell with emphasis on the tell.
Yeah, and probably quite a lot of whinging my part about this is much harder than I thought it'd be.
Oh, mate, tell me about it,
But
Jesus.
it's not hard to do. It's hard to cognitively kind of fit it all.
Yeah,
Um,
like the problems we're having now are actually problems of assembly. They're not problems of like, how do I do this specific thing? It's like, how do I
yeah,
get all the things that we have to be working together? That seems to
yeah,
be the problem.
yeah. And the one thing I've found is so by trying to go from natural language narratives through to anything structured, the very first thing was the bots were telling me, hold a second, that's inconsistent. What's your definition for that? And it's like, oh, fuck. So it's
That's good.
healthy,
Yeah,
but
that
it's
is
like,
healthy.
oh shit, you're right. Actually, I made that ambiguous, so you need to tighten that up, and then you go back through the cycle. Quite humbling, really, because I thought the definitions were pretty tight. Um, and every time I try and write a test, they go, no,
No,
that's not tight.
sorry, mate.
I'll show you tight. Yeah.
Okay, so what's happening? You show me?
Yeah, I can do it first. Give me a sec. Uh, shit. The
Shite.
desktop just updated, so
I
Jesus
denied that
Christ.
update. I was like, nope.
No, I did it like
Oh,
2
you got
hours ago.
sucked
I thought
in.
it would sort
Oh, you
itself
got
out by
sucked
now.
in. Oh, you got sucked.
Maybe you should start. I'm doing this in the background. Come on, it's just an update, right?
So they say. Um, yeah, well, my issue is that I made some late breaking changes, which I thought were awesome, and now my shit don't compile. So,
So this is more tell than a show then.
yeah, it's a lot more tell.
Well, if you can give me 2 seconds, I might find out what desktop's doing as soon as my headset can find it. Because it is open, unupdated. Let's just allow everything.
Oh, hey, why not?
Fucking hell.
Fuck me.
This is not for recording. We should probably have done this before.
Fuck me.
Ah, the
I'll
update
show you what
turns
I'm
off
doing here.
all my permissions.
Oh dear.
Quit and reopen. Oh, that's very helpful. Yeah, the update just, well, requires permissions to run. Yes, I know.
Ach,
I know. I'm giving it permissions.
no. Oh, because I was in the wrong file because I named two files in my workspace utils because I love to make life hard and, my bad. My bad, my bad. Agent Assessor
Oh,
Interactions.
I think right. Yes, right. Cooking with gas. Well, cooking on like a hobo stove. Right, where to start? You're already up. Right, okay, you do your thing first then.
Oh no, I'm just trying to get things working again. That's all.
All right, okay. Will I share? Or,
Yeah, 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 you sure?
yeah. Okay, right, so what I'm trying to do is, again, this is more tell, is how do you go from a natural language description of something that system should be able to do in order to create tests. So the path I'm going down, which seems to be quite fruitful, is you've got the ERD file with definitions of permissions, and
Mm,
that is your system. That's the definition of the system. Like,
right,
okay,
right.
great. So then you go to natural language and you ask, it's like, give me a test that would do this. Now,
So what is
uh,
the top level thing that you're trying to achieve right now with this?
is to write a test in natural language that goes straight through to uh, the test script and can be run without any interaction.
So you mean like what the example test markdown file that I gave you was? You mean something like that?
Yes,
But
exactly.
you're asking
That's
for
the
it to be
target.
you're asking for it to be generated automatically based on the ERD.
Yes, no, based on a natural language narrative that makes sense in terms of the ERD. I'll give you an example here because this actually just worked.
Because I
So,
really like those stories of the Dreamcatcher being used. Like they felt incredibly artificial. Like they felt compact.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
they
but
felt
they're
they were
all
far more intelligent than any human would ever make. Like they
or
had
you could ever be bothered to do, right?
right, like you could word pick, wordsmith, and mess around with that for days and not get as compact as what that bot made. Like I was
Yeah,
like that seems like the absolute perfect thing for an AI to do. It's
yeah,
beautiful to look at those user stories.
and also downstream it's unambiguous.
Mm,
Right? So there's a few things I'll take you through. Right. Okay. So this is
right.
sequence chart bot, and this is what I've been working on to take NL into a sequence chart because the sequence chart seems to be a nice middle ground between you can reasonably expect a human to read it, and you can reasonably expect a bot to read it without getting anything mixed up. Now, there's a couple things you have to have your entities well defined. You can't introduce an entity into a narrative without defining what it is, because it's like, well, who invited that guy? The ERD needs to be self-consistent, of course, and so if you do then go and introduce it, and this is the loop I've been going around, um, you need to introduce it and then make sure that the ERD diagram itself accepts this new thing. Now, so what I've got is three things going into this sequence thing. So the ERD file is the format that we know and love. Optionally, sequence tests. So these are rolled up tests. I'll give you an
Okay.
example. Here's one.
What you doing?
I don't know. I don't know again.
What you doing?
It does get a bit smoother. Oh, no, wrong place to paste it. Wrong place. Okay, so here's a simple thing, right? Now, what we've been doing is mirroring what the end target is going to be. So, starting state and expectation. Okay, so what's your starting state and saying,
Yep.
and is there any kind of this prompt is if there's anything specific, and then you've got all these backward and forwards. Okay, so great, that's all fine. Now, how do you wrap that up? What I found is you need this kind of header because otherwise it goes well off. And saying I'm using these entities in this sequence diagram. Those
Okay.
entities have to be defined in the ERD because the sequence diagram does not define the ERD. The ERD defines what the sequence diagram can do. So you have to put that in, otherwise you
Right.
just get nonsense.
Right.
So I've got a few. I've got a couple Mickey Mouse ones. Log in, log out. Slightly less Mickey Mouse is you're in how, and you ask for another bot without giving it any data, and you're in how, and you ask for another bot, and say pass that data I've just been talking to this new bot without stating what the bot is, just a target bot.
Okay.
So that's the oops. What is it? It is. Don't die before my show and tell, man.
Yeah.
Okay, and then once you've given this ERD as a kind of basis, and optionally sequence tests. Now, sequence tests are like just rolled up tests that you're saying when I say I want to do this, actually what I want to do is all this, and it's part of the test sequence. And then natural language is just anything you want, and then I've talked about outputs and given examples and all that sort of thing. So just before you came on the line there, I was testing this. So I've got a little bit more show than I thought I'd do. So got it. That's all the sequence test I gave it. Where's my narrative? Sequence test. Okay, right. So here's my natural language. Now, I've never told the system about TimeBot, but TimeBot could be a thing, right? So the actor Dave logs in, then asks how to take to TimeBot, which is a backchat. Which is a bot that tells him the time. Dave asks what time it's now. Notes I don't have to talk about backchat, don't have to talk about login. Dave asks what time it is. TimeBot tells him the time. Dave corrects himself, saying that he wants time in New Zealand. TimeBot gives him the time. Dave logs out. So it's a narrative, a random narrative. Now, what got was it being really pissy, saying, "Yeah, that's all fine, but what's TimeBot? You never talked about TimeBot."
Fair enough.
Because it's an example.
Yep.
So TimeBot is the target bot, which is the name used in the sequence diagrams. Is that okay? So now we come to the sequence diagram. Is this the last one? Yeah. So from that prompt and the inputs, I was mildly impressed by this actually. Given that there's not a single keystroke that I had to do in order to create it. We got this, which traces the entire flow that's needed at each step, all the way through to using a TimeBot of your choosing. So you'll recognize do both at the same time. There you go. Input, requests, instantiates, hands, backwards and forwards. All these are individual tests, of course, that can be run. Some are kind of base level tests for Artifact and Git. Some are AI tests. But my read through of this is it all makes sense. And this is a test for a narrative that hits multiple parts of the system. But was generated just with the text that I showed. Here. So, my thinking at the moment is...
So you turned up and you basically preloaded it with the ERD so it knew the rules of the chessboard. You then told it a bit of prompting about how it was going to be used to make tests.
Yep.
And then you gave it a scenario which looks incredibly clean, that one you've done, which suggests it may have been created with an artificial intelligence elsewhere. But either way, the point is that a nice, concise user prompt is added.
Yep.
This particular one appears to not be lacking any definitions or ambiguity because it would have been refined previously, and then this thing can now generate a test that exercises that little scenario, right?
Yes, but the thing I'd point out is what it's done is it's referred to the sequence diagram. So I gave it 3 sequence diagrams. Log in, log out, and use new bots without any data. which is the appropriate one. I'm given a description about when to use it for this, when to use login, when to use logout. But these are like packed tests. I don't want to have to say, use this sequence diagram, or, even do one sequence diagram. And what it's done is, quite rightly, what I was hoping for, is unpacked these so that what we've got here now is a complete test without having to repeat login. And what I mean by login is this. Logout, what I mean by log.
So it's like macros. It's
right,
macroified.
Exactly. And so what that allows, I think, and again, I'm not testing. We could try with a new prompt here, because this is, it's probably going to not work, but something along the lines of, I don't know, Dave logs in. Let's fuck with it. Dave logs in, wants to know about the weather. There is a bot. He's taken to the weather bot. That bot asks for location. He gives location. Dave, he gets weather info. Dave logs out. So it can be quite scrappy. Well, actually, I don't know whether it's going to be quite scrappy or not, but let's find out. Okay, create, what's it asking here? Yep. To create a valid sequence, we need to define the weather bots. Weather bot is target bots. So instantiating that, and should be is something that is now coherent, but importantly, this is the big thing. It's not just self-coherent, but it's coherent with the ERD, or it should be. I've not checked it enough to really be able to state that with confidence, but I think it is.
I think, I don't know a nice way to say this, but I think that it 100% works, because the bot always does things that make sense, and it's really just a case of us digging into it enough to figure out why did it say a certain thing, but it will always give something that makes sense. So you give it the ERD, and it comes out.
The interesting thing is, I've found doing this, if you say something like login, it didn't ask me what do you want to log into or whatever, but I'll put in weatherbot, which it doesn't know about. But in the sequence diagram that I gave it, I just gave target bot, which was uninstantiated. I didn't say what bot to log into. I just says weather bot. And so now we, in the test, can pass in target bot equals weather bot, and then the rest makes sense. And the sequence diagram.
Right, so it can leave things, it can resolve things late. Like it can treat them like a variable until the last minute.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't need to instantiate that variable until the point is trying to make a diagram and going, actually, this part you haven't told me about. And then you go, well, the bot is target bot. And it's like, right, got it. And here's the diagram. But there's a couple of interesting things on this one. The first one is now, it hasn't been for a couple of days, it's now producing well-formed sequence diagrams. The sequence diagrams have already proven in the background, but can't show at the moment because it's not jacked up. But you can go from sequence diagrams to the test spec with high fidelity because it's unambiguous. So you've gone from ambiguous natural language where you capture all the nuances and the ambiguities and so on, and then you got the sequence
so the sequence diagram is for being able to test multiple actors in a story. Is that right? Like it's a way to
because you can then imagine the situation where actually the sequence diagrams are being generated kind of on a Monte Carlo basis and saying, right, okay, you've just tested for weatherbot. we'd like to have you argue with Weatherbot. So create a sequence where you argue that no, it's not raining, yes, it is raining, no, it's not raining, or whatever, and test that. And that can be done on the fly because the output is a sequence diagram, which actually shows the sequence that can go into a just-in-time test that can be run. But also, because it's it's being seeded by these sub-process tests like log in, log out, or to access a single bot.
Right.
You can skip that test because that works, and you go, okay, we'll just run that, and then get to the real nitty gritty, as it were.
Okay, so the test suite that I'd been building was focused on a single agent. This is something that gives you the power to rapidly generate multi-agent tests, perhaps by incorporating some macros that you built up on single agents, where you're like, this is the process known as blah, 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 and then you can combine multiple actors together to...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The only important part is you cannot, because it goes wildly wrong quite quickly, you cannot call on anything that isn't in the ERD. If there's a type in the ERD, like you can leave that uninstantiated and create your new bot. But if it's not in the ERD, then it goes really weird, really quite quickly, and just simply doesn't work. So hence why I've actually spent more of the last couple of days updating the Dreamcatcher bot than I have been doing this, because every time it comes up saying, what do you really mean about an actor? So I'll go back and go, right. Yeah, okay, that was a bit ambiguous, wasn't it?
Right.
But interestingly, the Dreamcatcher bot works when we run it as a bot. It's quite happy, but running a test through it shows that it's like Swiss cheese at the moment. There's like holes all over the place. It's not actually exact.
So just the fact that you can't manage to generate a sequence diagram test means that it's missing information.
Yeah, well, for example, the first one that pointed that out is when I generated an AL saying, I'd like to talk to Hal about, I can't remember what it was, Rogan Josh, I think it was. And the very first thing it says, I don't know who Hal is. This is the sequence diagram. It's like, who's Hal? It's like, oh, we haven't defined Hal, even though it's like the primary interface. It's like, oops.
Yeah.
We hadn't defined, or I hadn't defined backchat in the definitions.
Oopsie.
Quite a big one. Didn't know what backchat was. So there was a whole bunch of...
Why is that able to highlight those holes?
I think it's because coming from top down, it's trying to be helpful. Coming from bottom up, it's trying to be helpful, but helpful means a different thing, doesn't it? It's like, I want to do what you said, but I don't have the Lego bricks. Where's the Lego bricks? Whereas top is like, here's 6 Lego bricks, go build me a house. And it's like, oh,
it's almost like when you're in multi-actor, there's no more outside. Whereas testing an individual agent, you've sort of boxed off the outside world and you've said, focus in on this thing. But those are basically end-to-end tests, right?
Yeah.
Like they're no longer unit.
Beyond single bots. Everything as even actually outside a single, just a single bot. When you add in artifact, the fact that there is a thing called artifact.
Yeah, I saw that show up in the test. I think that is that should not be tested in this way, because the sort of the classic problem in testing is that you need to define layers, otherwise you end up with, every little thing trying to be exercised from the top, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
so you can already see that.
Yeah, Artifact and Git are one of those things that they have their own.
Right.
Yeah, you could cut out the Git and Artifact actors.
Yeah.
Because they have independent testing on them, because you might as well test the JavaScript language as well. You know, like
Well,
if you
exactly.
don't
And yeah,
cut
that's
somewhere off, right?
testing all the way down. Right.
Yeah,
So see these yellow bars. So what I've been doing here actually is clear in this original, I think. Is using these bars to what?
what?
See text and images copy to clipboard. What? Why? I've been doing all day. Okay.
No,
Oh, see, just slightly too late. And it wasn't even the right one. Okay, ignore that. So what I was saying is these yellow bars I was going to use as roll-ups. So
macros, you mean,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
As in, but also statements.
right.
No,
Okay,
can't
I
copy
think
it
I
back here.
get what
Yeah,
you're doing there.
you get
That,
what I'm.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's very advanced. I think that's the end. Like that's the uh, it's hard to see what you would need more than that.
yeah. But the thing is, interesting enough, it's weirdly easier to do all of this and actually make it useful because from your side, we've got a test definition, we've got
Yeah,
test
yeah, yeah.
reports. The from this side, need to make the test useful, but you've got those pesky humans,
Those pesky
doing it in natural
humans.
language and
Yeah,
talking about all sorts. So it's actually helpful just to go in, right, okay, so what we need to do is to be every term in that natural language thing has got to be mappable to something that the ERD knows about. Otherwise, it just starts to add stuff. It's like, oh, right, okay, so you've got
yeah.
Santa Claus now.
Okay, so what you're saying is that in order to give me test user stories for the Dreamcatcher, you feel that this workflow system that's based on the ERD is the best. Sorry, the sequence diagram system based on the ERD is the best way to present those tests because they make sense as in how a user or group of actors would use the system. And given that
Yes.
Dreamcatcher relies on multiple actors doing things, it's not a single user tool.
Yeah.
This is how you prefer to express the Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, and there's the reason is the natural language is unconfined. We can't ask the ERD to write its own tests. We can't
Yeah,
ask
because
the
the
test runner to write
ERD.
its own tests.
Are you saying that simply because the ERD doesn't contain information about how different actors interact?
It does, but it's the thing that would, if I wrote a natural language test that disagreed with the ERD, I would then have to go and or update the ERD, which was the thing that was telling me that the natural language disagreed with it and asking it to mark its own homework. Whereas this, we're handing off to another bot who's got just knows about the ERD and saying, no, that doesn't work. And so what you can do then is
All right.
just
So,
edit it and put it back in.
where is the insertion point of workflows in terms of workflows being a way to express company procedures?
I think workflows will be similar to. I think this is going to be quite easy. Once you get this sorted from natural language, that's the gnarly one. The workflow can quite easly, I've done this a couple of times, be translated into natural language description, albeit wordy. So you can go from a workflow, even with multiple paths and that sort of thing, and you can create a natural language from that. You can also, interesting enough, just for shits and giggles, last night, I generated natural language in the terms of a movie script, and that worked. So you can have different ways of talking to it. You don't need to give it natural language in a paragraph. You could chat to it. You could have a backwards and forwards conversation with it, and so on. You could have a work.
So, would you then use this system when you were commissioning a system to try and chat about how the interactions you saw went, right? So you would see this being done first before the ERD got created, even?
No, it needs an ERD, a kind of core.
Right, so you'd seed an ERD, and then you'd start. This is where you would start to uncover your user stories.
Right. So imagine if you had an ERD that did basically bugger all, and you create a user narrative that says,
right.
I want to buy ice cream, and it says, I don't know anything about buyer.
Right. So this is what you use to help you build out the ERD, and you look at the stories, which are all the actors interacting, and you're like, yep, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct, but my ERD is falling short, so now I fix the ERD, right?
Right.
Right. Yep. So where do you express a workflow within this sequence diagram, given that this sequence diagram is not a company procedure. It's not a
the workflow is I've done some basic tests on this one, but it's dead easy to translate a workflow into a narrative. So you create the workflow, translate into narrative, and then test it.
Right, but we are talking about you make an ERD. I would say that you would also make your procedures, which are the workflows that limit or restrict what the ERD can do, because the ERD without workflow, without procedures, is boundless. Like, you can do a lot of things.
I guess what I'm saying is it's if the workflow is something to be tested alongside an ERD in order to bound it, then the gateway through that is from going from workflow through this kind of debabbilizer into a test. So the workflow might introduce an entity that just was not defined in the ERD. So you take the workflow into this, and you'll be able to chat to it and saying, your workflow is wrong, because what's this ice cream guy? We haven't mentioned him before.
Is it? Yeah, that feels cumbersome. So is the sequence diagram perhaps the thing that can be used to generate the workflows as well? Because when you're making the sequence, you are making a workflow. You could convert a sequence into a workflow.
Well, if you try that. There's no reason not to. I'm not told it about workflows, but let's. I've not constrained it either. So I suspect this is going to work. Find out, because the two are expressions of each other either side, really.
A sequence diagram is a workflow being enacted. It's a workflow in motion.
So it's dead easy to go backwards and forwards, because a workflow is, it loses some information, some contextual information, but it says, do this, do that, if this, then that, all that kind of good stuff.
Right.
So you go from workflow into sequence diagram. Sequence diagram can add in additional information, like we're going to mess with you by.
I should be able to then look at users on the system and automatically extract out a sequence diagram, and then be able to tweak that sequence diagram and say, okay, make that a workflow, so that I can almost half automatically discover what the workflows within a group of people actually is
Yeah.
based on converting them to sequence diagrams and finding the common ones.
Yeah.
Okay, and then be able to search, like you're like, show me all the times when this workflow had this deviation.
Let's try this. Okay, so I'm going to put this is real testing. Rename weatherbot to I write bot, and rewrite the narrative being creative on what's being asked. Just the narrative. Nothing else. Okay, so we're going from that workflow. As Andy suddenly feels the urge for the universe's alignment regarding his life choices. Okay, all right. Now, produce me a sequence diagram using that narrative. You can really ping pong between them really quite nicely. You do, depending on the direction, you do lose some information and add complexity. But I'm.
And this is all with Mini too, right?
Yeah.
Have you noticed any difference?
Else.
Have you noticed any different? No.
Oh yeah, speed. I can't be arsed with
Right, no negative differences, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's got some syntax wrong. Yeah, I could really do with a syntax checker bot.
Yeah.
Sitting outside of the thread.
Yeah. I'll get you that, buddy. I found that problem too.
Yeah. Well, it's easy enough to do. I just haven't done it.
I think that's probably what I'll put on my gravestone.
Still doing it. Okay. I'll be helpful. Stop apologizing. I've told it. Yeah, have you noticed? Tell it to stop apologizing. It still slips in the odd I'm sorry. I don't really care if you're sorry.
Is it sorry that it's sorry?
Just fucking do it. Right, there you go. Right, there you go. So, what's the same? It's done the login, gets the help files, it does all that fine. Backchat take me to I'm all right bot. I am right bots.
Am I right?
Yeah. Prompt take me to okay, retrieve. Yeah, okay. Instantiate. I'm navigating career and personal relationships. Should I take a promotion to focus on my friends? What's your current location? Provides location. Yeah. So you can see in a sequence
that's
diagram.
pretty good.
It's not bad, is it?
It's really good.
So, and you can look at the flows and say it has to agree with that flow. And
that
flow,
is really good.
You put that sequence as a seed into the sequence bot and say you have to agree with that flow. You can't not do that something that's flow because we've already tested that. And you can't argue with the ERD. All you can argue is the narrative and say no, and then you can say, well, it's because you haven't told me about.
That is fascinating.
Careers.
That is fascinating. Okay, have you covered all your topics?
Yes.
Okay.
That's where I'm at the moment. So the next step, once I get this in a good place that's doing it consistently, is to do. Well, I think it's probably going to be quite a small step, which is translate the output sequence into the test format, and then over to you to run tests.
So that's the work remaining on this.
that's where we're at. So meeting you in the middle.
In the middle.
But it has been harder than I was expecting. So,
well, fucking me too, buddy. I was like 2 days, and it turns out 2 weeks.
But it is definitely improving the ERD, which is kind of makes sense in retrospect, because you can't ask for something that's not in the menu, but you can change the menu if you control that as well. But when you change the menu, you need to make sure everything is self-consistent again.
That's true. Yeah, it reminds me of that picture of the channel coming together, and they sort of managed to get it in the right spot.
Those guys were like bang on the dime, weren't they? It was
they
like
were off. It was off away. By like it was off slightly. Yeah. Which I mean, I don't know how to dig a tunnel, but
with a chisel, ignore that bit. Yeah, put concrete over it.
There's a bump in the high-speed rail. Okay. So this is running a test file. I'll show you what the files are so it makes sense. The this is the test file that it's running, which I actually spelled wrong. My bad. So it's running this test file. All it does is it's got a target agent, or the agent under test. It's got an agent that acts as the assessor. There's only one test defined in this file. The test name is starter for 10. The prompts, there's only one prompt that's done. It's just list all customers, and there's 4 expectations that the output is going to be appraised upon. Because I haven't specified iterations, I'm only doing 1 iteration right now, so it's the equivalent of this.
That should be trivial, right? Though, as in generate expectations using this.
Well, generating more prompts to run against.
Yes, more prompts.
Yeah. Okay. So the what else do I need to show you? Do you want to see these the test assessor agent or anything like that? Or let's go into the agents.
Target's easy enough. That's just a box. So the test assessor.
Okay. Test assessor. That is the test assessor.
So your next website.
This is running as a drone. It uses the tool choice required feature, which forces it must call a function.
Right. So
it has no interaction.
It's almost a definition of a drone, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's not an isolate, because an isolate, it acts like an isolate, but it uses AI. That's sort of how I've defined isolate and drone. Is that isolate is code, drone is natural language.
Yeah, but it's a bit much like a waiter taking an order, but it can't go off the menu.
Well, it's more like the chef in the kitchen. It doesn't get to see the customer. It never interacts with the human.
Yeah, better analogy.
Yeah. And my preferred way of calling it is not to use JSON mode, but to instead call a function where the function purposefully ends the call. And so in this case, this function is set up so that when it calls that function, it will stop running. It will not, the agent will be halted with the result of this function being the end.
Burst this other function, and then that function knows
when it hits that function.
Who called it and where's it got to get back to?
That's the end. Yeah, it made this agent run like an isolate, insofar as it had a request go in and then a response came out, and that's how I've made the mechanics of that work. It calls an ending function.
Yeah. How about what's the what I'm calling payload? So say if,
the payload is the contents of this.
Right. So that's a thing.
That's a function.
It knows about.
Yeah, and I'll show you what I intend for the next format to be. It is. Oh dear. Ach, hallo. I have misplaced my test.
Ah, can you check down the back of the sofa?
Yeah,
That's where tests usually end up.
it is where tests end up. Oh, this was an interesting one. This is where I store the whole test format, and then I just insert it in lots of different places where I need it.
Oh, you know that insertion thing is really helpful, by the way.
Right. This is
I'm
the
using a
file.
stub at the moment, but yeah.
Right. Remappings. So this is how I want to change the test format. I showed you this, I believe, briefly, but you were asking me what is that assessment thing. Right now it's kind of hard for you to see because it's isolates and they get expanded out, but here you'll be able to do your own expanding for them. So just to take you to the you were asking where the assessment goes. This is the JSON schema that represents that function. This is what gets passed into the bot or the OpenAI call, and this is how it chooses to interpret what the function does and all that. So, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Seems fine. Yeah.
All right. So the assessor, you saw the test assessor calls that when it ends. It's only allowed to read in the file, and then when it's finished with the assessment, that's the end.
Yeah.
Now, test file. So test requester is like the thing that you can chat with. So that's what the user would see. That's a switchboard option, and this is where you navigate through all your files, and you can talk about the tests and ask questions about the tests. You can create a test controller or delete a test controller, and I started showing the state board to give you the test runner in the state board while the tests are going on.
So this is basically where we meet in the middle, right?
No, this is the user interface to the tests. We meet in the middle in the next file, which is the test file runner, I think.
Okay.
So the test file runner.
Yes, right. Because the test file requester would be a parallel thing.
Yeah, it's like it's a test file runner, test file requester does the same thing as what you're trying to do to finish off the sequence diagram bot. In that it. No, sorry, even that's wrong. The test requester is just how the user interacts with the system and reviews the test files and the test results.
Which
a browser.
Is another app. It's another app.
Yeah. And so the more we go into this, the more apps we make and the more essential the testing framework becomes. But it's really annoying that we don't have a test framework to build the test framework so that the test framework works fucking reliably, because it goddamn doesn't and has to be done by hand. So, be that as it may, this appears to be the core file. This agent right here.
This is, yes, I've already been referring to that as a black box that just runs tests.
It runs tests, and the design choice I made is that it runs one test file is one instance of this runner. Like, it only, files are the demarcation. It doesn't smush them together.
And it gives back a pass-fail.
It gives back a TPS report, and I'll show you the format of a TPS report after we run it, which will be easier. The TPS report file format is a complicated thing. But so files read is pretty straightforward. It's intended that it reads the test file that it was told to test.
Yeah.
Test case run a test. That's the sort of the magic of the system. That's the complicated isolate. That is this function here. So it's not that big, but it's also not that small. This is this thing here, this page and a bit of code is what
Oh, that is big. That is big for you.
right, as far as things go, that's kind of chunky, that one. Anyway, I will fix that later. My bad. I used a special function called resolve, which is a more generic way for the system, because it's a drone, and it's a drone that's going to not be allowed to, it's not going to be allowed to talk to the user, so it has to call a tool, which means that I have to give it a function to exit or it will run forever. And so resolve and reject were just simply functions that it calls. It can call as many functions as it needs in a row, in a loop, and keep on looping until it's satisfied. But when it's done, it needs to signal done by calling resolve or reject. Reject is there if it suffers any kind of abnormality or error, and resolve is just normal speak for I'm done. Kill me now. Upsert TPS report. That's the kind of the magic that the TPS file format was hard, but it's pretty strong. Works really good. And then add test case is what it does, because what this drone does is it interprets the plain text that was given to it as the test file and then converts it into TPS report format by first of all creating a blank TPS report using upsert TPS report, and then it goes one by one, add test case as it sort of pulls out the natural language expressions of the tests. So it's like a transformation pass that turns the natural language tests into a strictly formatted TPS report, which is all I need to run. Alright, so, and that's how the link goes. These are the instructions for how to run the tests. Shall I just run it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've written the test file. We've now upserted the TPS report. We're now about to, there's the assessments running. These are the outcomes. You missed that. Sorry, those were the outcomes of the assessor, which was the reasoning plus the outcome. These were all run in parallel. So that's why they only took as long as the longest one to complete.
That's nice. That's lovely. Yeah.
That's cool, right? And then out comes the TPS report in its format on disk. And I have taken the liberty of copying that over to a viewer so we can interrogate it. This is the format of a TPS report. This one took 8 seconds. That one that we just did took 11 seconds to do one iteration, and it completed one iteration. So basically you could plan to do 100, and then you can read this file as it gets updated, as more and more tests come in and get completed. The hash is the hash of the test file, so that the idea is that you can recognize when you're dealing with what version of a test file, so that you should be able to edit the test file or have it be written by one of your bots, like the sequence diagramming bot, that should trigger a test rerun, which then goes through and updates all the TPS reports. You can pick your own assessor. I've just used the default one, and this is the agent under test, which is very different to your multi-agent testing framework.
Well, at the bottom it's not, because each line in the sequence is one thing talking to another. And
right, so you would see that
context.
Right, so you would see that as taking the sequence diagram, using that to generate tests for just an individual bot, as opposed to trying to test the whole diagram.
Well, the target, the agent under test, is Hammer. That's the ERD, right?
So because it's a compound agent, it amounts to the same thing, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So then, all right. So that should all work actually, because you just make a different test case for each pause that you made at that line and diagram, and then you're like, and then switching over to the blah 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 bot. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, that sort of works. Yeah. All right, so that's all that, and then here's the test cases, which is, so in that file there was only one test case, as can be seen here. There could be arbitrarily many. There's a summary of all the test cases. So it took 6 seconds to run this one iteration of the test case. The prompts that were used, there was only one set of prompts given, which was list all customers. The expectations given was here, and the successes was, so these the successes map to the expectations. The idea being that after say you do 100 iterations, you'll see the successes are the summation of the pass or fail assessment of each expectation summed up over all the runs. Sorry, that's messy shit, but basically, if all your expectations passed for all 100 variations that you ran of the test, then each one of these would be 100.
Right, but if number 3 had failed 50 times at the 100, you'd be thinking,
you'd see 50.
Really my expectation, or is there something wrong?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You get the name just because I was feeling kind and chatty. You can view each iteration. So if you had 100 iterations, this array would be 100 long. Here it shows what was the commit of the iteration completion, so that you can actually roll back to that state and then see the whole system state at the point where the iteration completed. The prompt that was used, so this is used so you can actually see what the variation was, and then the outcomes is the assessment that was run against each expectation. So outcome 0 is the expectation that 10 customers were listed, and then it comes in and it says outcome false. The reasoning was the user asked the assistant to list all customers, doesn't have access, as a result could not provide, so blah 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 blah, therefore it's false.
Okay.
All right, and then it does the same thing for the reasoning for everything else as well. And that's how the tests work.
That's pretty good.
That's it.
Sure. Can you give me 1 minute?
Sure.
There's something happening at the door. Right back.
Okay.
I'll keep on the channel. Cool. Sorry about that.
No
Yep, all
worries.
good.
Yeah, so that's it. That's where I'm at.
Okay. So,
This will show up in a widget, so it'll give you a little bit more viewability. But the whole point of the design of this data structure is that it can be updated. You still there?
sorry about that. I seem to
That's
just
right.
got kicked out.
Oh, that's
Um,
right. It wasn't me.
yeah.
Um,
Exactly. I've seen that. Um,
yeah. So
okay.
the I'll give you a viewer for this, so it'll show up in the state board, which will sort of present these things a bit nicer. But
Hmm.
the only addition I was really thinking of doing is allowing a way to say, look at all of the different iterations that ran and the reasoning, and trying to suggest a summary. So this does a numerical summary, but it'd be nice to also have an NL summary, which sort of says what the common reasons for failure were. Like if you got 100,
Hmm.
if you got 50 fails, I should be able to generate an NL summary that gives reasoning that's common, like why of all the
That'd be
failures.
kind of cool. So if one failed 30 times, the other failed 50,
Yeah,
70,
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
it's like,
The
yeah,
TPS
that'd be
report
nice.
needs a summary, and
Nice.
the summary should be done using this natural language that just says, look, here's a bunch of failed results. Tell me why. The highest level would be, here is the agent file. Here is how it behaved, or here are the reasoning. 50
Hmm.
different groups of reasoning steps as to why the response was wrong. Tell me a summary of why it failed and suggest a fix.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, and also we can pass that back up because if you're running a test suite across tests, having NL saying this test failed some of the time, this test failed most of the time, then what we can do is like, is there any commonality between the individual failed tests, or even
Right.
the ones that almost failed, depending on your tolerance.
Right. So this is how it's built right now.
Mm-hmm.
What now?
Well, this is still fine. I don't think we've broken this, which is good.
Okay.
The one thing I'd say is, in order to get from NL all the way down to individual tests, I very quickly had to go into kind of macros, and those macros can contain macros, and at some point it bottoms out as kind of individual tests. Now, how do you want to deal with that? We deal with simple, let's ingest this macro if you talk about that into one test and run it, or
Yeah, I don't know, man. Um, I think I need to see a simple example of that to really decide what the best way to do is. because I've got that before syntax. So before
Mhm.
seems that was my plan for dealing with preconditions to a test case. I don't know if what you're saying can be satisfied with that before clause
I think it can, but it's like the before can be a
in
blank sheet of paper,
a
or
different
it can
file.
be passed from a previous test. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So we had that in there was either before or I think it was called state.
Yeah. I think it
So
was. Yeah.
where did that go?
Yeah. It's like three tests. Do this, then do that, then do that, and the whole thing either fails or each individual thing could fail, but you might not care if there's multiple paths through it as well. So it's like, well, you sort of, there's a partial failure. So there's some nuance there. I can give you examples really easily now. I can generate them till the cows come home. So I'll give you a kind one um, of the sort of thing that would maybe involve kind of two bots passing off one information to the other.
Okay.
And yeah, can do that either as a flow or a sequence, or if you want to wait a day, I can probably do it in the test format, the written test format, and highlight where I've had to invent stuff to glue it together. If I do, I don't know if it will.
Right. So this was the additions to the test file format that I was thinking of doing. Having an actors section so that you can define some actors. Now that sort of fits into your sequence diagram perfectly.
It does. Yep.
And then steps was
Yeah, that's exactly it. Is A does something
yeah,
to either itself or to something else. Yeah.
yeah. And then like when you have a test, so this is a test case, set up a new customer, it sets you as the customer agent actor. This just
Ooh, that's something I've not thought about. Is the context of who you are as well. I've only been thinking about Dave. Right. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
That's good.
who am I?
Yeah.
And then become the customer agent. That's just I figured that you should be able to chain multiple befores, and if you just put it in a list, then you can do things like have like three dependencies that you want to have happen before this thing happens.
Yeah. Now you're working at a level above I'm working at the moment. So, well, everyone working at the moment is one person interacting with the system, but now that's required if there's multiple people working with the same system.
Yeah, what? Oh, I thought that's what you're doing.
No, at the
No, you're
moment,
just talking one person, multiple agents,
that's right.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
okay. So yeah,
yeah.
so that, but oh right, okay. So what you're doing didn't seem to seems like multiple actors anyway, but you're like it
Yeah,
should be able to handle multiple actors, and
yeah.
then we
It
need to
should
be able
be.
to express
Yeah,
that in the test. So you're like
yeah. So at the
basically
moment, everyone, all the tests would be Dave in those
yeah.
sequences I've shown.
So
Everyone's Dave.
what we'd need to do is take your sequence diagram and convert it into this test format. And I think that this test format, provided you have the actor thing, and this would be your macros, the before part.
Yeah, yeah.
If you can set your actor in the test, you should be able to translate into this test format
Yeah, sure.
from the sequence diagram. And then, so long as you're in this test format, I can run it.
Yeah, okay.
And then when I run it, I can generate a TPS report for it. And that's sort of like today we've got a sequence diagram. Tomorrow we might have some other diagram. But so long as you can take whatever test you've come up with and get it into this test format, then we can keep the runner the same, the TPS report the same,
that's exactly
the widget
the point. It's
that displays
the
it.
debabbilizer is what is reasonably accurate versus
Yeah,
the
it's
whole
like a
chaos of
standard
people
form.
to,
And just
yeah.
to hint at what I'm seeing here with this pattern of using drones is that you kind of want to take a drone and then turn it into structured data as soon as you can. And so that means that it frees me up from having to write parsers that can, strip apart these files, because the NL as a parser is a glorious time saver, and it allows the human to be a little bit sloppy and have the bot fix it up, because given that I've defined what the test format is,
Yeah,
the bot should be able to clean it up.
I think I know what you're saying, and I agree, which is why I kind of needed to make that sequence test creator bot, but that's not the right name for it. But anyway, there needs to be something that allows the sloppiness.
Yeah.
Pick you up in the sloppiness before you move into the.
Yeah, that's right. But the sloppiness extends to the format as well, and it's like we're trying to get you to think clearly. We don't really want to lock you into a format. Formats were because we used to only, as computer programmers, we could only do formats. Now we don't need it, so
and nobody else could.
so we take the drone, first of all, inducts natural language and then turns it into structured data, and then starts invoking the structured data system. And then that outputs TPS reports, which are a structured format designed specifically to be updated efficiently inside Git when you've got hundreds of concurrent runs. And then that shows, in your UI. Yeah. Okay. It sounds like we're gonna clip together. We're going to clip together sufficiently, I think.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, the next thing I'm going to do is do the translator between the sequence and this, and see where it fails.
Okay.
Once I'm in this, we should be able to run against Hammer or any other ERD.
Right.
And also tighten up Hammer, because there's going to be a whole bunch of.
Yeah.
You haven't said that. It's like, okay, here's a test, and then we should be able to run it and get test things. It's channel, I think they call it. Channel,
yeah. So I haven't done any of these advanced features on test format yet, so I still need to test actors, and I need to test the before clauses. I haven't done any variations work, but I don't expect that to be a problem, which is to say generate a variation on this prompt.
That's real easy.
Yeah, and I also want to deal with prompts being a chain of prompts, so I can say this, wait for the response, then say this, and now assess the state of the system. So that's what I still have to do. I haven't got the test requester. The test requester sort of works, but it's definitely not plugged into the switchboard yet. So my real goal is to get this test framework plugged into the switchboard so that you can fire up, say, long threat, and then go run this test file, and then it runs it and shows you the TPS report, and then you can edit the test file or the agent and then say run it again, and then the TPS report regenerates. That's where that's what I think I'm trying to get to.
Ideal. Oh.
What?
Oh, are you okay?
Is it truck time?
Face is numb. Okay, I'm actually recording on PR with Tom right now, so you can get this interaction up on YouTube later today if you want to hear you saying this to the world. Anyway, go away. I'll come up and see you in a sec. Yeah. Okay.
Someone been to the dentist?
Yeah. Yeah, we're recording. But I'm totally going to give her a glass of milk or something and watch it dribble down the corner of her mouth.
Oh, that's so much
Um,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, no, it is, isn't it? It's worth watching.
Or something hot because they can't tell the temperature either.
That's
Boy.
oh no, I'm not that evil. I'm not that evil. Okay, I think we're meeting in the middle. I think we take this
Or
to face.
present a cup of tea that's actually cold.
Right, you're okay. I'm not sure what that says about your psyche. Yeah.
It's been a long time in the cave, buddy. That's what. Yeah. So that's what I think I'm building, and it sort of feels like the right thing.
It feels about right, and I'm
Yeah.
going from the other direction, and we might be half an inch off,
Yeah.
and we'll figure it out. But it seems about right.
Seems about right. Yeah.
The actors, I've locked on at the moment just to Dave. I'm not thinking about multi-actor sequences.
Okay. Yeah, because
For
we need
now.
that for the CRM for the trucking guys. You've got to be able
Right.
to.
Exactly. But for now, until we get all the backwards and forwards, because the ERD is getting improved and
Yep.
the ERD creator is getting improved and the sequence diagram, it doesn't seem that would be unnecessarily
Right.
hard.
So where I
Because
think I go
basically
next from this is I start setting up genuine test files that exercise the parts of the system we need for the CRM, for the trucking guys. So that would be a test that exercises the switchboard or that exercises hammer.
Not hammer. Leave hammer. Do backchat switchboards, the hammer switchboard. But hammer itself, what we need is that cycle, because the hammer ERD is going to be less in our ability to actually make it right, given a problem. But we know what switchboard should be, but we're not entirely sure what the CRM should be. So
Okay.
I'd leave hammer.
Okay, so that
It
I
can
mean
be
that
shitty as hell, but
that still
we get the
leaves
rest right.
that leaves a lot of other bots to work on then. So I'll leave Hal for you.
I've been ignoring Hal.
Oh, that's rude.
He's been doing good work though.
The summoner will need testing. I can test the test assessor as well. And then at that point, once we've got some testing, and then I can make a way to say the simple command, run all the tests. It will fire up every test file we have, which will exercise every agent that we have, verify that everything's good, show where the weaknesses are, and then we just start making our agents better and our tests deeper. You know, what the fuck else is there to do? I mean, that's the game from here on in, I think.
It is. Once we meet in the middle of the tunnel, and we just put lighting down, walkways, all that kind of thing.
Just that'll do.
Okay.
But that's about it, right?
Yeah, I reckon 1 or 2 days away from being able to go through that single Dave, but multiple from NL all the way through.
Let's the other thing that's sort of popping up in my mind is like I think I'm not sure. Only I think you know if having this TPS report system working would make your work with the sequencer faster, because it would mean that we could start to move your work to be on platform, so there's no more cutting and pasting. You're able to actually
it would be, but the where we cut new ground, I can get 40% of the way there with the bots we've got.
Okay.
But with the sequencer, I had to really go back and just like handcraft it.
Yeah, it's funny, eh? Like you always end up in some situation where you need the raw platform.
Yeah. Once once the hole is established, then you can get the drill in. But
Yeah.
otherwise, you're skanking all over the place.
Yeah. Okay, man, it's frustrating that we don't have a platform where we both work all day, but
It'd be lovely.
it's coming. So the other thing that's sort of popping up on my radar pretty highly is generating a website version using the ERD that you've made to replace what we had right now. Like
Yes.
this is not entirely wrong, but when I saw glimpses of the narratives that you generated for the Dreamcatcher, I was like, man,
the academic paper was quite cool, wasn't it? You even give references. I didn't give those references.
Yeah, it's like
Where did that come from? It's kind of cool.
It's like you could generate a white paper almost.
Yeah.
But you could certainly generate these classes of actor within the system, and it could be easily renamed or redescribed anytime we changed anything or renamed anything in the ERD. And so I was wondering if you thought it would be fruitful to do that exercise now so that we can have our website up.
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, oh God, it's been such a time. Remind me of the markdown behind this website. What's it called again? Because this is rendered from Markdown.
Oh God, that's a good question that I don't know the answer to. Oh look, there we go. So you just scroll down the bottom and hit the GitHub button.
Right. So it's text again, which is great.
And then you go into website, and then
should be come up somewhere.
I think it was all in here. But I mean, it's not like you need to. I'm not asking you to edit it. I'm asking you to be able to generate it. I think is
that's what I'm saying. Because the target is this written in clear text.
Yeah.
And in the same ways I got, and it was for shits and giggles while I was waiting on my dinner, that academic paper, which is like, okay, well, pretty cool. Haven't read it yet, but skimmed it. Seemed quite cool.
Yeah.
It should be easy enough to take from that repo what we said for each page, give it the ERD and saying, right, let's update this with the correct terminology and point out anything that is no longer correct or anything that we've added that isn't included. That is like an hour, and that's kind of an evening job.
Right.
Kind of. You're done for the day. Let's see. He says with some confidence, but it should be because it's in text, right? It should be easy enough. The only thing would be having some kind of sandbox to do. Well, actually, nobody's on this website, I guess. So
yeah, no, it doesn't matter.
See what happens. Is it rendered each time from GitHub, or is it got a place?
No, it's rendered each time.
So if I were to commit something to that,
yep,
it would pop up.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's me fuck around with that.
Yeah, just do it, because I mean, I can always roll it back. It's not like it. Yeah.
The only thing won't change is the blogs, because the blogs are quite helpful through the time. But actually, what we're saying in the kind of
we kind of need we actually need, like, you feel very close to being able to generate a blog post about the Dreamcatcher.
Well, we should be able to, at very least, generate. I don't know who would care, but well, I do this anyway. Every video.
Everyone I speak to would care.
Oh, well, what I've been doing is every video that we put up, transcribe it, stick it in a bot, and tell me the main points, and get it to refer back to what we said before, what new ideas were introduced, what ideas were changed. Probably wouldn't be that much prompting to get it into something readable, like a daily bulletin. The only thing would be that cycle at the moment is by hand.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've already got the isolate built and tested that pulls the YouTube transcripts automatically. So it shouldn't be.
That'd be real useful, because what we'll do then is take it into Botland,
Yeah,
and then take it away from there. I can write
right.
that from
Because
bot
the
really.
issue, yeah, that sounds like a great first pass. The issue is that YouTube doesn't do diarization when it does the recognition, and so I feel like you lose something. But we can figure out a way to run it through like DeepGram and then get diarized
What do you mean?
speaker thing.
Sorry, what do you mean by diarization?
Diarization says speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3.
Oh no,
You don't think that
yeah,
matters for the quality of
I've
the
got a tool
output?
for that. It does. Again, it's not on automatic,
Hmm.
but my base is just dump it all in, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't seem to matter, eh?
Um, it's like we don't need attribution. It's like, okay, two blokes, what they agreed, what they not agreed. It's like,
Right.
so
Okay.
it's a bit sloppy, but
Yeah, so basically, we seem close to being able to have the ability to generate a daily bulletin that's a summary of what we chatted about. That's what you're
yeah,
saying, right?
yeah,
And
correct.
then but then when it gets advanced is when like we have our own CRM that manages our spec of the Dreamcatcher, and it updates instead of customer records, we have like ideas records or requirements records, and it helps reconcile what we just spoke about in the
Yeah,
knowledge base. That's sort of the golden the
yeah,
golden goal, I think.
exactly, exactly. And I mean, our YouTube videos are messy. Everyone who I don't think we're up to about 18 subscribers or something like that. Yeah, 18.
Yeah,
Um, so it's like I was talking to one of them the other day and says I can only really listen to you at 1.5 speed,
yeah,
which is like fair enough. Um, so it doesn't matter for now. It can be messy and so on, but it's all been captured. We can go backdate it and generate that generation thing, and we'd load to work on that generation thing, the pipeline, while there's testing, and the website thing is going to be a side hustle.
the
Um,
website's pretty important, man, because there's a
yeah,
lot of people I'm talking to that
doesn't
are
seem
like,
that hard though. It doesn't seem that
okay,
hard.
well, why don't we
Yeah.
get that done then if you think it's not hard? Because
Well, because I want to meet you in the middle with the testing thing, which
yeah,
is hard.
well, I still got.
Uh,
I feel like I got maybe another week. Like that's sort of what my fear is. It's hard.
okay.
It's hard to know how long, because it's fiddly. It's fiddly as hell.
Yeah,
Um.
it's not difficult, but there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so yeah. It's not like I was originally thinking. It felt like a day or two, but now we're 2.5 weeks down, and I'm like maybe it's a week. But it does work. I mean, I've shown it to you working, so there's that.
Yeah. Well, how about this? I'll smush the two together depending on energy levels, because I can clearly see taking a text file with subject matter, give it a ERD, write a bot through create a bot to rewrite the text file, stick it up on Git, and we'll see.
Right. The
That's well, it sounds quite a pleasant kind of easy,
Yeah,
easy
the
thing.
reason I'm asking about it is because you've done work on getting the ERD of the Dreamcatcher out. And this thing here, this business plan that we got for Stripe,
Yeah.
is pretty damn important. So, oh, for fluff's sake. Being able to have these diagrams and then be like, this is what we're applying to Stripe for permission to do, we have to be able to have an ERD that shows what all these concepts are so that we can re-express it in different kinds of business language and business plan. And that's why I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that feels super close to just being able to generate at least the first pass on the website out of those entities, because you've got those entities. here is the relationship between them in terms of our business model. And so surely we can auto-generate a summary of how it all works.
It will insist on changing all the names to be correct to the definitions, right?
Yeah, but maybe the definitions are wrong or need to be corrected
Or
or
just the names. We don't have a thing called a worker, for example.
right, right. And so I don't know if there's even any point pulling in the old website because actually the new one is sort of, it's not that it's irrelevant, but it shouldn't be defined by that previous thing. It's really just the
It'd be
layout
an easy,
structure.
be easy starter where you're just replacing the content, but not the three box and images and all that kind of stuff.
No, yeah, well, in my head it was just a pure text-based rendering, and then we'll figure out how to put, like if you're just like the format is, I want 3 main headings, and then, like if you describe the format in natural language to it, as opposed to
Yeah, okay.
right, because there's a pattern in that website, a nice pattern, and that pattern is one subsection per actor, and then the top 6 features of it.
Oh yeah, you need to show that. If you go to the Git, it will show those as text, so you don't even
Yeah,
the
like
front end.
because ideally what I'd want is the JSON structure that we can hook these bots up to, so that as we chat and evolve, the website itself is always recent.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
always
all right.
regenerated.
Well, if you're looking at a week, I'm looking at a few days. What I'll do is I'll intersperse website over the next day or two.
Yeah, because this is what I'm getting
Extend
hit
what
with,
I'm
right?
doing.
Like when I talk to people, they're like, "Have you got a website I can read, or a blog I can read, or
I know
something I can
I've
read?"
seen that a couple of times.
Right?
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like, "Fuck, well, I do and I don't." Right? I'm like, we
yeah.
got a working platform that runs, and we got all these entities that are locked up, unsurfaced. So like
Yeah,
we have defined our business model, unless you've
yeah,
got some realize some quirks in this thing. This is the business model, and so
yeah.
now that we have it, we need to express it, and we're currently not. It's a problem to not be able to just hand someone something and say read it.
Yeah, okay. Oh,
Maybe I
all
should
right.
just
Well,
put this up as well.
yeah, yeah.
No, why
But
not?
then, well, we do this by hand,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
so
it's
it'd be
not good
better
enough now.
to learn how to do it by if we're gonna do it algorithmic or do it.
Well, it's better that, I mean, we ain't got anything up at the moment, so surely this is better than.
Well, you could do, yeah. Oh, stick it up there.
I'll just check it up
Well,
as a
actually,
blog.
do stick it up there because then I can use that as part of the training or the input.
Okay. All right. So just on this with Stripe, I think that the best way to be able to enable trading of this
Mm.
licenses is to make sure that we only allow trading within our closed network, so that you have to have come into Stripe and done KYC and signed up, and you have to have a valid Stripe account, and only then can we do the trade to let you buy and sell other people's stuff. Otherwise, it's open to exploitation and possibly extra regulation, because if we're treating it like a bearer instrument, as in
Mm.
whoever turns up and has this license, we will
Mm.
pay the bearer. Now, just because the bearer has passed KYC, that seems to be not enough for a lot of jurisdictions,
Oh,
because
is this a feedback with them? Is it?
No, this is just me chatting with ChatGPT because
All right.
I think that you could probably develop an entire rather complex business model just by chatting with
Yeah,
GPT
probably.
about it, right?
Well, that whole bare bond thing I was talking about last time, where it's
Yeah.
like let's push it all off. All that was trying to anticipate the fact that we couldn't trade on platform, but the same trading on platform is the only thing you can do. That's neat. It's like sure.
Yeah, yeah, because as a bearer instrument, apparently many jurisdictions regulate it because they don't know who you traded with.
No, and it's
Like it,
damn near cash. Yeah.
yeah, because it acts like cash, and I'm like, well, what's wrong with cash? So, so anyway, but if we just make it internal platform only, and you can mint yourself a commemorative NFT, but then you're off platform, or even just not even do that because it's confusing. I
Mm.
think we're good, man.
All right. That makes it life a lot easier, I think.
It does, right?
Because all we're doing is trading, licenses, the rights to use.
Well, what we're
So,
trading there is we're trading uh
sorry, not the rights to use, the right to benefit from.
we're trading the revenue share certificate that we issue, which is effectively a contractual agreement between our entity and them
Yeah.
that promises that we'll share revenue. It doesn't say that they own IP, therefore it's not a royalty, but
Yeah.
we guarantee them that when we take revenue for use of this work product, we will pay them in a form that is calculated using this method, and that's the ambient attribution method.
Yeah.
Then the other type of trading is that people who were had a purchase agreement as a client
Mm-hmm.
we might need to enable trading there. Like if I came in, the work hasn't been completed, but I put $100 down real early, but now
Mm-hmm.
I need my money back. It's a waste if I just yank it, like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do see that.
But do you think that's maybe not
It's not. I don't
essential?
think that's on the. I don't think it's on the main line on that one.
Nah,
But yeah, I
yeah,
can see
okay,
that
not on
happening.
the
I
main
can
line.
see that happening.
And I also, the other simplification I wanted to make was to set all of these items as unitary, so you can't fractionalize the things that you have. Like if you put in $1,000 here, you don't get 1,000 units. Like once the work product's complete, you don't get 1,000 units that you can sell. You get this whole thing.
Yeah. Um,
I don't know if you think it needs to
I
be.
don't know what the implications of that are without thinking about it, but it seems reasonable. It's like I buy
It,
a fridge. I don't want to sell half a fridge.
yeah, it's just to get us going, basically, as simple as we can
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah. Again, not mainline to
Yeah.
fractionize it.
Okay, well, I mean, gosh, man, I guess the only thing I'd like if we had any time was to go through all of the scenarios for doing business and making money that we've ever thought of and make sure it fits within these models. But look, off the top of my head, I mean, if it works for the CRM guys and it works for the Dreamcatcher itself, then it's good enough, I think.
Well, honestly, if we get to the stage of where we think we're going to be quite quickly, depending on tokens, we can just build an ERD that processes all the business ideas we ever had.
Yeah, that's kind of
And
where
tell
we want to
us,
get to.
yeah, concierge them for us.
Yeah,
We'll sit, fat time and happy.
transform them into a standard form, and then confirm them, and try to run tests like money laundering through them.
Yeah.
All right.
Right,
Well,
let's go.
yeah,
You
me
probably need
too.
to go as well.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'll bump my priority to first look at the website.
I'd love that, dude. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
And I'll keep the other thing trickling on because there's a few things in the air that if I drop them, there
Yep.
are switching costs.
Yeah.
So I'll
Forgetting
pound
and
those
switching.
first.
Yep.
But otherwise, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow if you're around.
Okay, sounds good, man. I'll be in touch.
All right, nice one.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you later.
Better soon, by the way.
Yeah, me too, dude.
Yeah.
Crumbs.
Sucks. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
See you tomorrow.
All right. See ya.
See ya.